Hey, welcome back to my channel Endless Pages. I'm Liv and welcome to today's video, which is my March and April reading wrap up. Hey guys, welcome to today's video. Like I said, this is my March and April reading wrap up. I'm going to be chatting to you guys about the 9 books that I read across March and April and letting you know what I thought of them. First up, we have Victoria Aveyard's Realmbreaker. This is a fantasy book about a girl, and she is the daughter of a pirate. She lives in this like small little village, and then she gets told that she's from this like ancient magical lineage, and she's needed to help save the world, basically. Your pretty typical fantasy plot. So when I read the blurb of this book, I was like, I'm gonna eat this up. This is so up my alley. This is so a me kind of book. And when I read the first chapter, I was like, wow, the writing is amazing. I was so pulled into the story and so blown away by the first chapter. I was like, this is gonna be a 5-star, easily a 5-star. And then I continued on with the book and was really disappointed. Yeah, the first chapter was really strong, and then I don't know if I'm disappointed because I felt like the rest of the book just did not match the writing quality of the first chapter, and this is so disappointing. I felt, despite how thick it is, I felt that maybe this was a little bit rushed. I don't know, this just had all the ingredients of a book that I should have absolutely ate up and 5-star. Like, it has found family, it has adventures and journeys, it has chosen one things, it has evil sorcerers and evil family members and knights fighting, being the last standing against evil. I should absolutely eat that up. It's just a recipe for a 5-star for me. And I felt like maybe it was really rushed. These are people that just shouldn't trust each other. One of the characters is a literal assassin. So I just feel like the trust grows between these people way too fast, and I think I maybe would have been okay with the trust growing between this found family group if they had been through a few more traumatic group things before they started to bond. But yeah, I just feel like everyone grew too close too quickly and accepted that this was true too quickly, what was going on in terms of the evil and all of that kind of stuff. I feel like for intelligent characters, some of them should have, I don't know, asked more questions before they started trusting in this, I don't know, prophecy. Or for a character like the assassin who is so, at the start, so not self-absorbed, but she's out for herself and protects herself only. That's just kind of a defense mechanism and how she has to live and how she survives as an assassin. And I feel like I would have liked to see her character go through more development in terms of fighting those urges of oh, maybe I should trust these people and bond with them and protect them. I think I would have liked a bit of more back and forth in her perspective, rather than just oh yeah, okay, I'm in the group now. So alright, well, you are an assassin who was only for herself about 5 minutes ago. That's a quick turnaround. I think the writing's not amazing. I think maybe that's why. I think the plot is really cool and fun, and I like the idea of the plot. Betrayals and sorcerers and evil and swords, yes, but maybe my beef is that the writing quality wasn't great. I don't know. I feel like I have such mixed opinions about this book. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. I think I will continue on with the series. Normally if it's lower than 4, I don't want to continue on with the series. And I am going to unhaul it. I don't think I would reread this, but I feel like because of the plot of the book, I have hope that it could get better maybe as the series goes on. It did end on quite a bit of a cliffhanger. Actually, what was the cliffhanger? I can't remember. I don't know. I can't remember. I remember it was a cliffhanger. So I think I will continue on and see if the writing quality maybe gets better as the story goes on. But yeah, I ended up giving this 3.5 stars and had such a weird mixed experience reading this book. Speaking of disappointing, book number 2 was And Now Back to You by B.K. Borison. This is the second book in the Heartstrings series. You might be familiar with the first book, First Time Caller. So I loved First Time Caller. I loved it so much. And I know you're probably going to say don't compare, they're 2 different books, but I'm going to compare the 2 a lot in this review. So this was highly anticipated for me and so disappointing. Let me look at my notes so I can say how I feel. So my first issue with this book was the characters' personalities. I know that it's kind of a thing in romance where characters' personalities are dialed to like 1,000, so just like, yeah, they're a normal personality of a normal person, just like to the extreme, and that's okay. It's a book, it's gonna be like that. It happens in media, it happens in books, and there are some books that I've read that before and been like, all right, I'll deal with it, like the Chloe Brown sisters romance books. Like their personalities were like dialed to 1,000, but it was okay, it was charming, it was fun. In this book it was just really annoying. They felt like caricatures, and the female character is like a klutz. She's like, oh, clumsy, but it's like slapstick level clumsy, and she's just tripping every 30 seconds, and it's really annoying. So their personalities, maybe not his so much, her personality really annoyed me. Yeah, she's kind of meant to come across as this happy-go-lucky, like really bright kind of person, but it just comes across as quite annoying. I don't know, maybe I'm too cynical, but yeah, her character genuinely kind of annoyed me. So that's not really the best start. And she was tripping and doing the clumsiest shit every 30 seconds, and it just felt like watching like a slapstick comedy, and it was not fun. It was not enjoyable time. Yeah, it was silly, distracting, took me out of the story. The second beef was the romance in this book. I know, I'm going to compare, but it's going to happen. The first book, the romance really felt like it happened really slowly as the characters got to know each other on such a deep level. I feel like in this book, the characters didn't get to know each other at that same deep level, and it felt very insta-love. I was reading reviews of this book, as you do, and I saw someone in the review say this happened across the course of a week, and I totally forgot that this happened over a week. They fall in love in a week. a literal week. It was way too quickly, super rush. This book is pitched and marketed as enemies to lovers. That's a lie. They are enemies for about 5 minutes of this book. 5 minutes. And then all of a sudden they're head over heels horny for one another. It was just so rushed. Over the course of 1 week, they're like in love with each other. And again, I just feel like they didn't have many conversations about getting to know each other on a really deep level. They just suddenly seemed to like understand each other. And I was like, where did this understanding come from? Where were the deep conversations? You just feel like mind readers, that you're just able to read each other's minds. And yeah, maybe you are in a relationship at a certain level, but I feel like that comes after a significant amount of time where you get on each other's wavelengths, not 3 days into a week-long romance. Yeah, this was a romance that I just didn't believe in. I felt that it was very surface level, and I just didn't think that these characters worked well together. The romance wasn't believable to me, and it was way too rushed. So this was a crazy disappointing sequel from one of my favorite books of last year to such a mid book this year, the sequel. Yeah, I was very disappointed because I wanted to love this book. I forgot to say, I ended up reading And Now Back to You 3 stars. The last book I read in March was Dark Corners by Megan Golden. This is the second book in the Rachel Crawl series. I listened to this on audio, and I didn't like it. Oh my god. Me and books in April did not get on very well. So again, I'm gonna do a comparison between book 1 and book 2, and I'm sorry, I just need to get my point across. But yeah, so the first book in this series is called Night Swim, and it is one of the best books I've ever read. I also listened to that one. I highly recommend that audio. It's fantastic. And yeah, one of the best books I've ever read. I would definitely like to do a reread soon, actually. But that first book is about our main character, Rachel Crawl, and she is a podcaster, and she does podcasts. She's like a journalist, does podcasts about murders and true crime and all that kind of stuff. So in the first book, she is covering a rape trial case, a really high profile in this town of a, yeah, it's high profile because the son is very well known and very well liked in the community. So yeah, it's pretty controversial, big case to cover. That was absolutely moving and beautiful and heavy, and the writing was just brilliant. There was a side plot that was also just as moving and beautiful as the main plot. It had a lot to say. I feel like the first book, it was a lot of commentary on rape trials and, you know, the argument of he said, she said, and police investigations into rape. And I feel like it was just handled so well in that first book, and it was a beautiful writing, a very engaging, interesting story with a lot of great things to say. So I just was absolutely blown away by this book. This book follows on after the end of that trial. It's a brand new story, which I was expecting. That story is wrapped up and done. So this one, you follow Rachel Kroll again, and she gets asked by the FBI to help with this new case of this influencer that has gone missing. And I just feel like it was so jarring because after the first book, I was expecting that same incredible level of writing and commentary, and this just felt really goofy in comparison. Like this, I was just not interested in the mystery at all. I didn't really want to know what happened to this influencer. Yeah, I was really not interested in the mystery. I felt like the writing felt so different from the first book. I was like, is this the same author? It just feels so weird and different. And yeah, so it's about influencers. So Rachel kind of goes undercover at this influencer convention, I guess, which is meant to be like a VidCon type thing. And it felt like someone who is not really involved or know much about like the influencer or YouTube community has written a book about them and made characters based off. And it just feels like extreme caricatures of an influencer. And I imagine there are influencers that are very conceited and very much constantly thinking about the views. I'm sure there's people like that, absolutely. But to put all of them in the same boat and just to assume that they're all like that just feels like someone that is not actually really involved in the community or knows much about it. It feels like, you know, when you watch a movie and you watch like a teenager's dialogue and you're like, an 80-year-old man has written this dialogue. Like, it was that kind of vibe, and I was just like, it was really annoying. And I was like, yeah, some influencers 100% I better like this conceited. But yeah, everyone felt like a caricature of characters, which was very annoying. Yeah, so there was like meant to be tension in this book, but I didn't really feel it because I didn't care. This book just, the mystery to me was not at all engaging or interesting or twisty enough. And I just, yeah, I had such a meh time reading this, and yeah, it's such a disappointing sequel. Again, like First Time Caller and Now Back to You, from an amazing first book to a second book that I felt no connection to and so disappointed by. I ended up giving Dark Corners 3 stars. Next up, to start off my reads in April, I read A Man Called Uwe. I think that's how you say that, by Frederick Bachman. This was 5 stars. Finally, after a 3-star drought, I had a 5-star read. This is about Uwe, who is a grumpy old man, and he goes about his day. He's rude to everyone, grumpy, and yeah, he's just a grouch. That's literally the plot of this book, is Uwe is a grouch. And then one day in his neighborhood, a new family moves in, and changes everything, basically. So yeah, this is literally a book about a grumpy old man making friends, and I was so blown away by this book, how moving it was. And it's a story about human connection and grief and yeah, just joys in life and the impact that a connection with someone that cares about you can have on your life, and I guess the power of community. And yeah, this is absolutely amazing. I loved this book. We we kind of have two sections to this book. We have one part which is the present of Uva, getting to know this neighbour and him at first finding her and her family such a nuisance, but slowly getting to know them and slowly, yeah, becoming closer to them in his grumpy old way. And then we also follow Uva's kind of past with these really fascinating chapters about Uva's relationship with his father, and you kind of see through, I guess, nurture how he became the man that he is today, which kind of gives you the context of why he is like he is, which they were, I think, some of my favourite chapters was when we went back to the past and learned about his father. Like, they were so well written. And then in the present, yeah, basically, like I said, he's getting to know his new neighbours. And my one beef is, I will say, is there was a little bit of repetition in this book with, there was a lot of chapters with just like scenes pretty much given as examples and proof that he's an asshole and grumpy. And after a while, those scenes became unnecessary. Like, I know he's a grouch. Like, we have established that. I hear the way that he speaks to workers and other people. Like, I know he's a grouch. We don't need to keep giving me examples of that. I was blown away by this book. I was moved by this book. I sobbed at the end of this book. Yeah, it just goes to show that, like, even if you find that... Yeah, I was blown away by this book. I sobbed at the end. I just sobbed. And I literally, after I finished this book, I sat like in silence for 10 minutes, just like, oh my God. So yeah, it really affected me, and I couldn't stop thinking about it for the rest of the day. And I was talking to my grandma who's over, who's watched the movie, and I was just like telling her about what I had read, and I teared up again telling her. So yeah, it was a really emotional end to this book. And yeah, it was a moving story about trying to continue on in life despite grief and despite loss, and yeah, people that get to a point that they think that they can't go on anymore without a certain person in their life, and that other people can come and not fill the void and not replace them, but help them re-establish their joy in life and connection to the community and all of that kind of stuff. Another thing I will say is I understand why people might not like this book. There is a triggering topic that was, yeah, had a little bit of a comedic tone in this book with how it was handled, and I could understand why people wouldn't quite appreciate that and don't think it's something that should be joked about. Yeah, I would check the trigger warnings before you read this book. There is some heavy content, and it's quite heavy at some points, but I found this absolutely moving and beautiful and hopeful, and I love any book about the power of human connection. Like, you just can't go wrong with it. This was absolutely 5 stars, and yeah, a very surprising 5 stars. Next up, I read My Best Friend's Exorcism by Grady Hendrix. Is that his name? Yeah, Grady Hendrix. This is a horror book, and boys are bad. So this follows 2 best friends in the 80s, and basically one night shit goes down, one basically gets possessed by a demon. Yeah, and that is the whole plot of this book, and it's so bad. This book made me uncomfortable, and not in a fun horror, like, ew, that's creepy, in a like, ew, that's weird, why do we need to write that kind of way. So yeah, basically one of them gets possessed, and yeah, they're trying to figure out what's wrong with her. She starts acting all weird, not like herself, and her best friend's like, what's going on here? Yeah, so they take drugs one night, and she gets lost in the woods, and then comes out kind of different and changed. And the start of this book, the bit that made me really uncomfortable in this book was they're trying to figure out what's wrong with her. They don't really know she's possessed at the start, and the best friend thinks she's been assaulted, and there was like raped. There was a whole weird plot line with that. And that made me very uncomfortable, and I don't know why these male authors keep thinking it's necessary to include teenage girls' virginity storylines. It's very weird, it's very uncomfortable. I haven't talked about that yet. The reason I say that is because I just read another book with that similar kind of thing in it that's in an upcoming vlog. So that's 2 for 2 that I've read recently, that are weird male authors writing uncomfortable things about teenage girls' virginity, and it makes me very uncomfortable, and it was not a necessary part of the plot, I don't think. I think that it wasn't necessary because like it only lasted like, you know, a couple of chapters, so it didn't really move the story forward in yeah, I don't think. So yeah, that was the first really uncomfortable thing. The other beef with this book is like nothing happens. Oh my god. There's like these snippets of really cool, creepy, possessed scenes where she's slowly kind of like manipulating her friendship group, the one that's possessed, like this psychological kind of warfare and messing with their lives. That was one bit of this book that I did like, but again, it took really weird, uncomfy turns where I was like, and we've ruined the fun of that. That's right, I was saying nothing happened. Yeah, nothing happens other than like a couple of moments of like her slowly starting to mess with friends, but they're all kind of really minor stuff that doesn't really like resolve until the end or get put together towards the end. And then other than that, there's like a few creepy moments where things start to get really gross and creepy in terms of like body horror, and I'm like, oh, this is what I'm here for. Like, she's possessed. Like, I want to see the toll that that's taking on her body and like creepy crawlies. Like, that's what I wanted in this book, and we got like tiny little snippets of that. And then every time that started to kind of happen, like her body like started to deteriorate, and I'm like, this is cool, this is what I'm here for. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, never mind. So those scenes kind of felt not enough, or yeah, didn't last long enough to keep my interest. I know that's a really all over the place review and I haven't really said much, but I found this book really boring, and I found the ending really happy-go-lucky, which I don't think suited the vibe of the book, and I found the ending very weird. No, I found the ending cringy as well. That's what I totally forgot. I was like, I feel like there was one more thing I wanted to say. There's a scene, I can't say, it's a massive spoiler, but yeah, it's called My Best Friend's Exorcism. So eventually we get to an exorcism, and the kind of conclusion and solution to that was so fucking cringy. As I was reading it, I literally like slammed the book down. I was like, no, is that how we're dealing with this? That is so cringy and awful. And I should have expected it when it said like on the back, is their friendship powerful enough to beat the devil? I should have known that it was going to go that way by that line in the blur, but holy shit, was it a cringy ending to a really like, the exorcism scene was pretty cool. It was intense and it was like fucked up, and I was like, oh, like this is cool. I kind of like this scene. It was really fucked up. And then that was how it ended, and it just ruined the whole cool, gory, intense, you know, scene that was the exorcism. Yeah, I didn't like this book at all. I ended up giving My Best Friend's Exorcism 3 stars. Next up, I listened to Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This follows the River family, more specifically the siblings. These are the children of Mick River, who was a famous rock star, and every summer the siblings throw this end of summer party. It's the late 80s as well, except this one, at the end of the night, the house ends up in flames. So you kind of see how it got to that point. And you kind of go back between the past and the present. You see the present with all the different perspectives of the River siblings, and then you go back into the past of Mick River, and it's not really his perspective, it's more the mother's perspective, whose name I can't remember, and I feel really bad because she was a great character. But yeah, you follow their mother's perspective and how he met Rick, and their kind of, I keep saying Mick, and their kind of early love story. So some of the Nina's mother's chapters was some of my favorite. Nina and her mother were my favorite characters. I think they were very well written women, and I loved reading from those perspectives. Yeah, and you just kind of see all the secrets throughout the night. I wasn't so interested in the siblings, to be honest. I feel like my one beef with this book was that some of this other siblings' stories were just not as interesting. Nina was definitely the most interesting character and had the most to say. And there was also a bunch of different side characters that we follow in the party throughout the story that I didn't give a shit about. And those chapters kind of annoyed me because I was like, why do we need to know? Like, I don't care who else is at this party. Like, I want to know about the River siblings. Unless they can directly involved in their story, why are we just following a random actress who we have no idea who this actress is and we don't really care? So that was my only beef. Other than that, this book was fantastic. The chapters of the past of Nina's mother and her life were just absolutely beautiful to follow, and just absolutely devastating and beautiful. And she was such a flawed character, but such a good mother, but despite everything that she'd been put through, and she was such a flawed character, and she was so interesting to read from. And Nina was the same. And yeah, and Nina had a very interesting dynamic with her parents and her siblings. So their dynamic was just absolutely fascinating, and it was a really interesting and sad family story to listen to. And I was just, Taylor Jenkins Reid writes characters that you just absolutely adore, and I just absolutely adored spending time with them and getting to know them, and it was just incredible. Yeah, Nina and her mum were a highlight. They were my favourite characters. I loved learning about them. I loved Nina's development throughout this book, and I was hoping that that's how it was going to kind of go, and that's definitely how it went. And it was amazing to watch Nina develop and find her path and find her time, is all I'll say without spoiling it. But yeah, she was a character that very much didn't really think about herself, only put others before herself, and that's the way that she's always lived her life. And I guess kind of mirroring her mother, I liked how her and her mother's stories kind of mirror each other, and you see just a repetition of history, which was kind of devastating but kind of beautiful at the same time, because you see them make the same decisions with similar outcomes. Despite Nina watching her mother, what she went through, you saw Nina go through the same thing despite knowing the outcome for her mother. So I found that really interesting, and like, yeah, that was a cool exploration of, yeah, the family likeness in that regard. I absolutely adored this book. I gave it 4.5. I didn't give it 5 because, like I said, there were some parts where my interest was lost when it was about some of the other siblings that weren't as interesting or well developed, and some of the side characters that I'm like, why are we following random people at this party? I don't care. Just tell me they're celebrities at the party. I don't need to know about them unless they are directly involved with the siblings. So yeah, I was blown away by this book. I didn't know if I'd like it, but again, another fantastic read from Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I would definitely be reading more of her stuff. Okay, sorry about the outfit and lighting change. It's the next day. I filmed the start of this video last night, and I thought I could get it done before I had to go out for dinner, but I couldn't. So we're finishing it really quickly now before I need to go to work. Apparently I always love to film when I don't have a lot of time. So the next book I read was, oh that's right, Our Crooked Hearts by Melissa Albert. Where is it? It's here. This is like a witchy story about a mother and a daughter, and one day Ivy, it's like the start of her summer from school, and she discovers like a dead rabbit that's been like decapitated on her driveway, and then she starts, you know, discovering weird stuff that's going on with her mum. So this is like a dual perspective. It goes back and forth between the present with Ivy and figuring out what's going on with her mum, why are all these weird things happening, and then you follow her mum in the past. What does it say? I don't want to spoil it. Yes, and her mum's fling with the supernatural in the past. So the stories both collide and you kind of figure out what's going on. This was okay. I listened to this on audio. I think I would have really enjoyed this book if it wasn't a YA. I think the thing that spoiled this book for me was the kind of annoying main character. Like, Ivy was annoying. She was very whingy, very teenagey, and that kind of annoyed me for the situation. I think, yeah, if this had been adult and a lot more darker, then I would have really liked this. I think the tone should have been darker, and the reason it wasn't was because we'd have all these really creepy scenes and then you get pulled out of it by the girl being like, oh, man, I hate my ex and I want to be with this guy, and you're like, oh, okay, well that kind of ruining the witchy spooky vibes that have just been set up in this book. I did like the flashback scenes of the mother when she was a teenager, and the beginning and the end, kind of what led to current day issues to do with her relationship with the supernatural. That was really interesting. I enjoyed that storyline. It led to some creepy moments. There were some creepy moments where I was like, ooh, this is so creepy, which I enjoyed. Yeah, so the immaturity of the main character and the relationship drama ruined the vibes of this book for me. I could have done without that. I could have done without the relationship. Maybe that would have made a difference. without like the relationship drama of this book, maybe I would have rated it higher. But yeah, it was a little bit of a spooky vibe, so I liked that. That's what I was looking for. So I ended up giving Our Crooked Hearts 3 stars. Next up, I read The Infinity Court by Kemi Dawn Bowman. This is a TBR bet, and I'm so glad it's off my TBR. This was horrible. this was yeah, this was just horrible. I think maybe again too YA for me. Even then, the writing was just really, really bad. At one point, I think I said to someone that when I was reading this, it feels like every second sentence is a simile. Like every second sentence, this woman was like, "How do I write a book?" And she was like, oh, "Similes," and like literally every second line was a simile, and it was so. The similes were not good. Like not good similes, they were just very basic, and I felt like there was so many moments where there was a simile used to describe like my heart dropped like, for example, or my heart felt like, and it was all those very dramatic when like your heart drops and all that kind of stuff. Again, her heart dropped about 16,000 times, so her poor heart. I think I've said that in a review before, like their poor hearts. But I think you need to give your reader the benefit of the doubt that from the context of what's happening, you can maybe pick up on some of the feelings the characters might be having. Like, you don't need to always describe it. I think you can tell that they're scared when they're in a life or death situation. Yeah, we don't need to describe every single eye movement, every single heart movement of the character. Like, it's excruciating detail and excruciating similes. This was just, yeah. What else did I say about this book? Oh, and her thoughts. Oh my god, that's right. Her thoughts were the same on every single page. I didn't tell you the blurb of this book, but basically a main character, teenager, dies, goes to this place called Infinity, which is like, I don't know, like the afterlife. And an AI has taken over, the AI that they use in real life, like a Siri type kind of thing, has taken over and wants to rid this place of all humans and just wants these little AI robots left. And then she kind of teams up with the rebellion, who are trying to defeat this evil AI. Ophelia is her name. She's like their queen. So she teams up with, and the whole book, on literally every page, she has the same argument with the rebellion, which is like, but maybe the AI could change and maybe they care too, and you know, maybe we don't wipe them all out. And also, number one, don't try and be sympathetic towards AI. Don't get me with that shit. I'm not going to agree with you. It's just going to annoy me. And yeah, so every discussion with the rebellion ended exactly the same, and they were arguing over this AI and what they should do. And every page she had the same thought. There was nothing new to add. It wasn't flippy floppy like, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. It was like, no, this is wrong. On every single discussion and argument with these people was exactly the same, and that was excruciating. It was like torture. Yeah, so this was bad. I'm kind of disappointed it was bad, because I wanted to keep it, like, purely because of how beautiful this cover is, but there's no way in hell I'm putting this back on my shelf. In summary, very, very poorly written. Very poorly written. Too many similes. Too many heart drops. Trying to make me sympathetic with AI. Absolutely not. What else did I not like about this book? The plot was just so unengaging. I didn't give a shit about any of the side characters. The romance was, neither of the romances were believable. There was absolutely zero chemistry between her and either one of those boys. So yeah, I ended up giving The Infinity Courts 2 stars. I did read one more book, The Institute by Stephen King. I won't talk about it in this video because I read it specifically for a themed vlog, which hasn't come out yet. So I won't talk about it yet, but yeah, keep your eyes peeled. The video will hopefully be out maybe this month, hopefully. Maybe next month. I don't know. Who knows with me. Those are my thoughts on everything I read in the month of March and April. Let me know in the comments below. Have you read anything I read in this month? What were your thoughts on them? What was your most disappointing book of either March or April? Thank you so much for watching. Give this video a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you would like to see more of my content. And I will see you in whatever the hell I post next. Bye!